Hello, welcome back to the Renegade Lifestyle Podcast with me, George Papp, helping you to empower yourself with practical strategies and hacks to exit the matrix and become ungovernable. Today, we are joined by Francis Hunt, aka the Market Sniper. We've had him on before. I've met him as well personally. He's a great guy. We've got him back. Happy to have him back. Welcome back to the show. How's it going, Francis?
He's not a great guy. He's a very naughty boy. He's working so hard at becoming ungovernable that, the government just hate him. Yes, glad to be back. How are you doing?
All well, all well. A lot's happened since you were last on the show. Bank failures and all kinds of other things, especially economically. So we'll go delve into that and definitely deep dive into some of those things that have been occurring this year. And just for me, cracking on, getting guests on, getting more information out there to the people. And I know you're one of the best personally who talks in the economic space about what's going on and also how to protect yourself from the coming Great Reset agenda. So that will be excellent again to deep dive into that again. So first of all, let's speak about. I know it's quite a quick. We're not really messing about here, but let's deep dive straight into the banking collapses that have occurred over the last couple of months with SVB, with First National Bank, right? What are the implications of these? Did you see this coming? What is going to happen in a sense? What is planned next? Is this a continuation, a slow continuation of bank failures, in your opinion? How do you feel that this is going to continue?
Well, if you recall our first visits, everything is going exactly according to what we said in that previous visit. People should watch the first time we showed up. In essence, we called the turn of the debt market in August 2020. We said March 2020 was a seminal event where you were about to have a reversal in the debt markets. And we pointed out that the reversal in the debt markets is not just about the debt markets. Most people in retail don't understand debt markets. And I want to bring it to something that they do understand quickly: currency, money, and banks. So there's a troika, a holy trinity of the satanic system that essentially relies on money being borrowed into existence. So the money you would draw out of your bank when you get a personal loan for 10,000 euros, dollars, pounds, whatever the case may be, has been created by an intermediary that we refer to as banks, that has been given a license to create that, and they create T-bill accounting for which you have incurred a liability and you've now become their asset. And we have a debt instrument that says you owe 10,000 to the bank and you now have 10,000 to spend, which hopefully you do something productive with that generates income, earnings, apart from just buying a car, for example, which is a depreciating asset, will lock you into payments on a depreciating asset at the original new price with compound interest, even though that asset continues to depreciate. Many people will buy other things, iPhones, et cetera, et cetera. So conspicuous consumption and the financialization of everything has seen many people take the option of buying depreciating assets with debt. We've had an ever-expanding debt environment. But the biggest criminal is invariably the government, which is one of the reasons why you have politicians always getting themselves voted in by making promises of expenditure on behalf of certain lobby groups and special interest groups. Organized special interest groups such as mega corporations that have big monopolies end up with far more power, far more money that they spend on lobbyists that are working Washington, D.C. and every other place in the Belgium for the EU, in good old Luxembourg, I think is the correct name for it all, where you have whining and dining and we should be doing this and that. That ends up seeing the everyday person not being looked after, and the special interest groups with the mega budgets and the monopolies, or want to be monopolies that are already oligopolies or with immense power, have far more influence. And eventually politicians cease to be working for citizens and state. So not only is that, have we well past that, we actually have committees that are meeting that are all part of high-level mega corps, banks and dark state spy surveillance systems, for which you as a citizen are now actually no longer not being represented, but you are the patsy. In other words, you are the person being fleeced. And in the name of being born a citizen, you are a future stream of tax income, and they intend to extract, and they will intend to use those future extractions as income streams to justify further borrowings. We've now come to the end of that absolute Ponzi cycle. And we warned when we last showed with you that the debt has turned. That means fiat money has turned as an asset to hold with any form of liability. Not that you hadn't already lost 97% of the dollar since it had been issued and the Federal Reserve came into existence already, but that the further acceleration to zero was now going to take place, and that the gold-silver ratio that coincidentally also hit 128 on these same drivers and mechanics that saw bonds rates drop so low, yields drop so low because they were being demanded so highly for safety during the events of locking down the entire economy, the beginning of the crisis industrial complex, which joins the military industrial complex and the pharmaceutical industrial complex, as vectors of attack that are all being directed against you in many different ways, both on your physical health and, of course, as being major extractions. In short, your central bank is a venture capital company that provides liquidity to the crisis management industrial complex, which was perpetuated against you in March 2020, which created a huge amount of debt, for which a lot of it was splurged on all sorts of wokery and other nonsensical, wasteful products that do not give a system that exists on merit anymore, but a system that is on social inversion, perversion, representation, color, gender, how your genitals have been mutilated and which gender you've decided to flex towards, and all the others that they've now created in an absolute mind wizardry game of inversion, perversion. This is the world you're in. And we told you on the last time that you need to be in gold and silver, and you need to watch the digital instruments generally, but that Bitcoin could also do very well. And we spoke of the word that we created, anti-fiat. Not oil, not commodities. And we've recently highlighted 2 months ago that oil is going to go down on a demand-destroying event as everybody stops spending, as they get absolutely destroyed. We've also shared charts on Twitter and many others and done YouTubes around the fact that the FANG, Amazon, has been defanged and had a superior outperformance in gold and silver terms, not in dollar terms, between 2011 to 2019. And that has now turned into a head and shoulders that's going to see gold be the overperformer over one of the hottest sectors that existed for an entire decade. 99 months you had of absolute extreme outperformance by Amazon. And that is the death of the online consumer. It's no longer cool or new to go and spend money online and get Christmas parcels arriving every day of the year. And people don't have the money. The consumer is utterly squeezed. The jobs have been absolutely hammered. The Fed is still trying to hide behind strong labor markets. It's an absolute lie. You're deep in a recession that already passed the criteria for a recession a long, long time ago. But they said, no, not this time, cause labor market sizzling hot. While in actual fact, in the Daily Shot articles that we are premium members of, we've seen a record collapse of job openings. Of course, you've also had 15 and 20 and 10% retrenchment in all the major FANG stocks, such as Facebook, which are the leaders. Many people talking about how well tech has done this year so far, because it's in the around about 20%, ignoring that Bitcoin's up 70%. Based on the fact of essentially 5 companies, 60% of the stock market's gain. So that is about as narrow a breadth that you've ever had. It's not the nifty 50 anymore, it's the nice 5. And that is all where we are. In other words, the corporatocracy, dark state entities that are spying, surveilling, seizing your pictures, stealing your biometrics, suffering hacks and leaks that happens to see your data and information disappear and end up probably on all forms of dark state mega servers, all hosted on AWS and Microsoft, etc., so that they can scrape your voice, your everything, and surveil you. They are busy rounding up the rats and mice of the banking system. Coming back to your question, rounding up the banks of mice. No doubt the trading rooms of the likes of JP Morgan, Credit Suisse, for Bank of America are busy shorting the daylights out of all their favorite regional banks, causing the share price to collapse. That scares the depositors, that then sees those deposits all move to the Fed insinuation that they will protect the big banks and that it's discretional on the smaller banks, which is essentially slaughtering all the options at a localized level for the banking system. No doubt they're shorting and making the profits, and also getting the new flows of deposits as people panic out of the accounts into the bigger banking institutions, which they will then end up buying those banks at bargain discount prices, on far lower earning multiples, which will, of course, enrich their own earning multiple as they acquire databases, clients, and everything else after at bottom prices. Don't forget those same big banks, also the shareholders of the Fed, that has actually made it quite apparent that they will back the too big to fail banks, but that it's more discretional on the smaller banks. So essentially, you're seeing the barbarians are already at the wall, and they're slaughtering the beggars and the vagrants that are outside the walls already. The easy kills are already being picked up. And those that can flee have fled back into behind the fortress walls to where eventually the siege will begin. And you are in the process of fiat collapse, debt collapse, banking system collapse. The trinity is one of a system. You're talking about systemic failure, interest rates, inflation are the controlled demolitions a la 9/11, the nanothermite, the explosives, the perfectly shredded metal structures that were on ground zero that proved the dirty hands. Interest rates are, and if you hold debt, you will be shaken out of your assets, you will be shaken out of your home. They will spike interest rates in the name of protecting the system and fighting inflation in an environment where everybody is already hopelessly impoverished. So this is what's happening, and everything we told you last time has now accelerated. And many people are sleepwalking. These are big developments. The rats and mice banks falling. Don't forget, after Lehman, this is the second, third, and I think possibly going into the fourth biggest banks that are now actually failing in the first world nation of America, which is the holder of the currency de facto god fiat, and that is the dollar, which has been losing immense value. And some will go, oh yes, the euro's gone up against the dollar. That is like looking from one leper in the leper colony to another leper that doesn't have a scab in the same place. You need to look out of that subset of fiat currencies, which are all riddled with the same disease of hyper-indebtedness, failing banking systems, and failing fiat currencies. And you have to look at the anti-fiat category that we gave you. Not buying oil stocks just yet, because the demand-destroying event is going to kill them. As we said, oil would go down. We were mocked, we were laughed. They cut production. It gapped up. And now, as you have seen, nobody cuts production when there's a vibrant demand for their product. It is a price protection tool to right-size your outputs so that you do not lose pricing power. And that what was done by OPEC, Saudi, and Russia actually proved my point, even though short-term price behavior went against me. But I had a lot of people puking about, you're wrong on this, you're wrong on that. And guess what's happened on gold versus oil? The head and shoulders triggered to the downside. We look at asset prices valued in gold and silver ounces, and we are seeing the technical macro charts. We are talking about it, and we have told you that this is the play for wealth building, physical gold and silver held in your hand investments, and there will be trading opportunities until counterparty risks and all sorts of Bolshevik new legislations will see liquidity no longer provided to brokers, and you will be denied the opportunity of making the unworldly gains that will come with the anti-fiat category. The game, remember, is to ensure you, the middle class, are destroyed, a la the Bolshevik Revolution, where they attacked the farmers. They took everyone who was middle class. They weaponized the poor, who are useful idiots for them. They create envy, divide and conquer, etc., to ensure everybody gets leveled to the status quo. Everyone becomes a worker class, and then you have your status ruling. This is Bolshevik communism. That's where they want to take you. You're going to get a technological version of surveillance currency, CBDC, and UBI, which will be introduced on the failure of the debt market, which the pension industry is totally reliant on and stuffed with. The pensioners will be doped into a failure, made absolutely miserable. Their heads will be held underwater until they sign and accept that there will be a compensation. The statists have come to their rescue with this new solution. However, your social score, your flu shots must be up to date, etc., which will certainly be the absolute seizure of power and conditions. That is where we are at. That is what I warned was coming, and we have progressed towards that. That is a long form answer to your question, but I cannot be more succinct about we are on the money. And it's not an ego trip. We've been saying this for 10 years, and you are watching a bankruptcy that's gone slowly and is now going into the suddenly part. In the time since we last spoke, this has accelerated at every single level, on every single level that I forewarned would happen. And you need to start thinking about how you are building wealth in reset times, because if you fail to do it, you will be part of the masses that will be flattened. And the scale of this destruction will shock even me, never mind everybody else who hasn't even given this a little bit of thought. You are going to lose everywhere.
It is. It is in that. It is that time, and we're seeing it play out slowly. I feel like once it does play out, though, it will be pretty quick in a sense. Like you have to prepare for that time, because I don't see anything going slowly when it's actually time to happen. Otherwise, people will have to
They
prepare.
need chaos. They
They
need
need
the
chaos. Yeah.
confusion of chaos. They will need the absolute confusion of chaos. This is all set up. When they pull their stunts, there will be more things going on than you've ever seen. You will be distracted by escalations in possible wars here, possible reruns of pandemics, possible collapse there of this, nation state peg failure here. They will suddenly feel like nothing happens for decades and decades happen in weeks. And that is how they will hide through pure force of volume of events, all forms of actual events buried in the small print on the back of newspapers will be the most important news that you'll probably never get to read, as you are distracted with all forms of trivia, drama, and some geopolitical risk, because this comes with social political collapse. It comes with geopolitical tectonic plate shifting, earthquakes in terms of America's hegemony, both militarily as well as just socially and culturally, as well as the financial aspects. And all these things break together because they are a matrix. Just as I explained, you had the troika of debt, currency, and banking system. So you also have, I'm back. I was describing the troika of banks, intermediaries, the banks, and then the debt and the failure of currency, how those 3 points all work together. You, in the same way, the financial system interweaves with the social system, the geopolitical system, the military industrial complex, and everything else. And of course, equities, all the other financial instruments all affect people's wealth fact, affect housing, which has been 6-7 months now in decline in prices in the States, which is a huge barometer. So, you know, there's the scale of this. This is, I actually have a diagram if you would like me to share a diagram, and I'll show it to you. It's one that's quite valid for here. The acknowledgement of a recession has not been coming at all. And if we,
It's amazing how they've hidden the real economic impact through all of these other events that they stage, basically, all distractions from the actual reset of the economy, and this is to bring in the
100%.
CBDCs.
And they are tightening interest rates into a collapsing economy. So they created the inflation with a disproportionate reaction, which they needed to create some heat after shutting down the entire globe. So everything has been coerced and managed and created. The ridiculous overarching response, the mass psychosis with the masking the whole world, the trash that's now in the ocean from these ridiculous, useless items that everyone had to buy millions of, the fake tests with the fake results, the fake flu that vanished suddenly only to be replaced by this different thing. Of course, there was some degree of virus, there was mutation, there were things that going on. But the deaths they created in the older people by locking them up, reducing, giving them remdesivir, everything was population reducing and was aggressive, but it was also economy reducing. And at such was the loss that our oil single-digit call occurred. It was a ridiculous statement and forecast to make, and it happened anyway. But what I wanted to show you is how
And they
housing
never
down.
they never they never
No, but
mention the impact of an economic situation has on life and how much death that causes. And I'm definitely sure that is more than the that flu that happened a couple of years ago. In terms of poverty, people getting depressed, etc., and it goes on, delayed, treatments, etc., etc. It goes on.
Never
That
mind about the turbo cancers and other ailments, Bell's palsy, SADS, myocarditis, pericarditis. But anyway, let's not go there. Most people have got a Telegram group or three that are puking all the facts of that and has been since a year. As I
Yeah.
said, we were onto that truth while they were still pushing the initial lie, before there was even discussion of a vaccine, when they first discussed the concept of, hey, there's this difficult flu, we might have to shut down to stop it spreading. I said from the beginning, they're going to rush through a miracle cure that will be an injectable vaccine, and you should not take it. But anyway, that's old. It's almost old news, and I have fatigue about it, and many of the viewers I have fatigue. We're talking about the housing market being first to slow, then new orders in terms of inventory, in terms of stores. They suddenly find that's not happening. Profits start to drop in reporting. That's in equity. This is the order. Then employment. If you're waiting for employment, it is a lagging indicator. It is so lagging that by the time people are cutting everybody's jobs, you know they are on the bare bones, that the pressure's got big. It's something nobody rushes to do. Fire people, right size, do everything else. And housing fell long ago. We met the criteria for a recession long ago, and all of these things. So we are already in profit slowing, undermining, and part and parcel of the employment contraction. So this is deep into what is already a proven recession. So I just thought I'd share that diagram with you, just so that you can also, while you're here, that's the rate of increase of interest rates 2022 versus all others of the modern era back to 1984, which takes you to the Volcker era.
how do you
That's how
see
far and how fast.
how do you see they react if they raise interest rates? It destroys people who have debt, which is mostly everyone. Or you lower interest rates and inflation goes, insane. Which way? Which way do they take? I mean, what do you see
You're
happening?
going to experience both to varying degrees to a much higher combined level than you've ever had before, which is why we talk about hyperstagflation. That's descending growth, and that is ever escalating inflation. And you can just choose how much of pain of each you have. But you can have very high levels of negative growth and lower inflation, or you can have much lower levels of negative growth, but you can have extreme runaway inflation. And the sweet spot is probably equal amount of pain of both. So you're going to be standing in a bucket of hot coals and a bucket of ice
Yeah.
with one foot in both. But let me tell you, whilst the average of the two temperatures might be okay, the pain of each are going to be high. And that's what we've dovetailed and named hyperstagflation
So they're
by
really
name.
crushing you from both sides at that point, and also the I'm sure tax
And
increase.
all of that is quite clear to see in the charts. So
Yeah.
this is gold and oil. This is oil in gold ounces. This is our call when we said go gold long, oil short, on a head and shoulder. This is a big time frame weekly chart. There was your head and shoulder, and that was your neckline. That was the extremity of that downside target move. We were the only person who not only said oil's going single digit lower, no one else called that before these events. In 2019, you can see this right shoulder had already kissed for the second time. We were still mid year 2019. We hadn't even had the repo crisis of September, October, and we were warning people. I have YouTubes on our website. You can find the link of the entire macro trade on there with me talking from North Cyprus in August about how oil is going to collapse and a particular equity is going to lose 80+%, a pipelines oil company that I later disclosed was Plains All American Pipelines. We were also short Carnival, a key old age pensioners liner cruise, and it didn't make sense. Why are we short? One of their biggest inputs is cost of oil. And you got your answer with a pandemic. And here we are standing telling you that literally you're getting very close to a rinse, repeat, similar environment right here, right now. We told you it would then run the oil price very strongly, and it did. It got up to beyond the previous gold highs in relative value. We hit 129. That was technically called by us also on our Market Sniper websites. I think I had the macro up here somewhere. No. Let's have a look. I'd have to find it for you and share it with you. I don't want to.
If you can't find it, just send it to me and
Yeah, I'll
I'll put
send
it in
it
the
to you,
links. Yeah, yeah.
which was $129. This was as oil hit $129. We said, that's it, a broadening structure on a bear pole. And we had that chart, we shared it, we put it up, there it is. You got, first of all, a nestled head and shoulder, the smaller red one, that we refer to as the monarch head and shoulder. You will learn all of this in our program on the marketsniper.com, book a call. That made its target. Everybody, we were warning, this head and shoulder is now triggered. And then the first thing that happened is you get a return move. What was that return move on? The cut in productions by Russia and Saudi Arabia. I
Basically,
should
it's
call
true.
it Saudi America, yes. It's quite a good faux pas. But anyway, yeah. And everyone said, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. I said, watch that. See how long it holds. You're going to close that gap and you're going to go breaking back down. And here you are at the neckline of the next head and shoulder for a relative valuation of oil, Western Texas Intermediate, one of the primary contracts apart from Brent of oil that is going to crash in gold terms again. That is what is going down. It's going to crash in gold terms again. You're in another head and shoulder, a much larger one here. And this is your big gold call. This is your anti-fiat call. We did the same with the Amazon stock, which we shared in a video some time ago with Amazon. I don't know how far back I'd have to go, but that is on YouTube recently.
What are your
where we did
thoughts?
Amazon.
What are your thoughts long term on those stocks, such as the big blue chip stocks? I mean, as you're seeing the centralization continue, a lot of these massive ones like Amazon, you would actually probably be a slightly bullish, although you wouldn't maybe want to hold them if you're morally not looking to invest in something like that. But would any of these large blue chip stocks be a pretty good purchase to sort of grow some wealth in the next few years, I guess? But they are in fiat terms, though, right? So
So I have no interest in the FANG equity stocks at all. I think you need to keep things real simple. I get people that always want to fascinate on the wrong things when the key message I keep hammering home is you need bullion. You need physical bullion, and later you will get into miners when they start to run. But because of inflation and because of forward selling of precious metals at lower prices earlier in the markets, you need to give the miners some time. They will turn in due course. But you should purchase equities. And of course, if we have a demand destroying event, many people will need money. They might sell shares. They may sell their gold and silver a little bit too. If they've got guns to their heads, they're going to be under so much pressure. They will sell the liquidity. They will sell their Bitcoin too. But those will be buy the dip opportunities. On everything else you get out. There'll be a bid under the bond market for a short while when they create such fear. But most central banks will use that bid by scared money institutions to dump their treasuries and to continue to stack gold and silver, which is what they're doing, particularly gold, obviously, if it's a central bank, not silver. But we're actually seeing the shortages get so acute on silver that the silver ratio, the gold silver ratio is actually coming down. And that is going to point to, at some point, silver overperformance to gold. But the central banks will drive the gold price, and they are already in. And retail is sleeping. In the 80s, during the Faulkner years, you had 10% plus of gold holdings in portfolio. You don't even have a fraction of 1% being held in the most important capital preservation tool. The key point I keep making to countless people is you had a search for yield 40-year since Faulkner rate highs. Everybody searched and chased yield, and gold and silver was terrible because it paid no interest, a la Warren Buffett. And now you should be recognizing that the search for yield is over, because the assets you have to own that will derive those yield are all going to contract. That property that you think is going to pay you, that commercial property in New York that you think is going to pay you rent when all the businesses are renting it, is going to sit empty, my friend. It's going to halve, it's going to quarter, it's going to get old, it's going to require maintenance, it's going to empty. Even the residential rental that gave you yield as a small-time landlord, it's going to battle. The capital price is going to lose so much. The yields are going to have to get really attractive again. There will be no lending for you to buy it because the banking system is going to be destroyed as debt is getting destroyed. You're going to go back to a cash purchase banking system, literally, for property for a while. That will see huge capital devaluations. Even if you have a tenant, what use is a 3, 4, 5% yield if your asset is going to lose 70% in value and you owe a ton of money? You've got a 50% borrowing on it. The bank is going to call you for more collateral when you can least afford it, and your tenant's going to be less able to pay. Their goal is to flush out all the middle class small landlords. If you're in the UK, you will know that everything is turned against the small landlord. You know that they want BlackRock, Vanguard to own all your stuff for you to own nothing. It's not you will own nothing and be happy. It is we are going to flush you out of all of your stuff and take it off you and own it and turn you into a tenant in your own home.
Yeah.
That
And
is their big
in the
game.
UK, they snuck in a 25% corporation tax as well, which is interesting. I mean, going back to gold, um, it's interesting you touched upon the central banks buying gold, because we're seeing a massive buy up from the BRIC countries, right? With gold, and gold central banks buying gold from India, from China, Russia, and that indicates to me what's exactly going on in this. I would just say this story, because basically it seems the West is basically collapsing, and we're going to see a new rise in power from the East, because whoever owns the gold really has the stability to grow the next economy. What are your thoughts on that movement? Because we're seeing a huge purchase of gold from the central banks.
So I want to also say within that all countries are part of the leper colony of fiat disease. And the depth of most markets is still dollar based. So the notion that dollar is going to vanish is wrong. The notion, the correct, is that it's going to continue to lose value slowly and then in capitulation moments. And its relevance and need to be held is going to be reduced, but not eliminated, because there is no fiat substitute in the markets. The yuan has no depth for derivative markets. And any other future thing will need to prove itself and will need to be very well backed. And the temptation to put some precious metals in the portfolio to get trust and faith. Remember, it's a faith-based system. Fiat means faith. They're going to want faith, and people are losing faith in banks, debt, and currency. So now you want to reconvince people of a new Ponzi scheme based on the same principles. Ain't going to work. It's going to have to be a diversified portfolio of many nations and pledged with collateral such as gold to even have half a chance of getting people to buy it. Or you ram it down their throat by creating such a huge crisis that they're starving. The food supply chains have gone down. You've locked them down. That they'll sign on for anything just to carry on with life and have some semblance of being able to make transactions and purchases again. This is why we will need to be able to barter, have communities of like-minded. But so the notion that the yuan replaces dollar is a failed notion. The notion that the ruble, replaces, failed notion. But the dollar does get de-significanced in this process, de-domination.
So it's like an equalizing event.
You will then have more choice, varieties, and others will be battling to establish some degree of depth in various other markets. It's kind of like a crypto realm where you can have Bitcoin, Ethereum, and many others. Ethereum, for sending a test $3.33, wanted to charge me $20 in gas today. So I just sent it on Matic for 2 cents, the same $3.33, just to test a transaction. So you will have choice, and dollar will have old world problems. It'll be like the Ethereum thing, and you will have new choices that'll be cheaper, and people will gravitate to those things that serve them better. But by holding wealth as a balance sheet item physically out of a banking system where literally it takes a man with a gun to steal it with you, it's a lot better. There's very few things that will beat actually a gold bar in underneath your pool, or in your toilet cistern, because that will always be there and it won't rust. And that's the key thing that many people need to do. It's about preservation of capital. The only equities I'll think of owning is really miners. Most of equities will underperform, but because of the inflationary element, there will still be certain things that go up, and certain crypto equities will do very well. And right now, the military industrial complex, now that the pharmaceutical industrial complex is selling off, and we are short Pfizer at the moment, is now pumping. So don't worry. The insiders will be getting backhanders, doing dirty, dark, weapon dealer type trades, and getting filthy rich on the debt that they're printing up and spending via government on your behalf to keep you safe. You do understand. But in actual fact, that's not truly to keep you safe. So there will be industries that will do well and flourish and can run, but there's going to be many more legacy industries that are going to stagnate on a great basis. So your indices are going to become these proxies of polarized outcomes. You need to be very specific if you're going to be long any equities. Outside of miners, and hold your nose military industrial complex investments, there's not too many things I would stick my name on. And when the debt ends, what they haven't spent on the military industrial complex will also have to stop for a while, because if you have debt ceilings and debt collapse and there's no new money going into an industry, they're going to have to float on the orders they get in before there. And that's why I think we're getting such a run-up. This is literally you're leaving a country and you're maxing out your last 5 credit cards, and you plan to leave all the debt behind at home. And you're going to a new home and you want the best start, and you're ordering yourself the best suit, a new couch for your new home, and everything, and you're putting it into your cargo container, and you're saying, after me the storm. Good luck collecting that as I start again afresh, and you're buying tools. This is where we're at. It literally is the last flourishing of debt for industries, which are kicking back gains to all the insiders as they are doing it. And that is the impoverishment of you and the future destruction of that overly proliferated currency, which correlates with the over proliferated debt, which correlates with the institutions that deal in the currency and debt, the banks. Again, you need to view it as the satanic troika that is paralyzed and destroyed, and has a Federal Reserve that is owned by other banks, that is doing things that serves its shareholders, not you, and is neither federal nor a reserve, and is a cartel of highly wealthy criminals that have formed and plotted and conspired. Yes, all those things. Club of Rome, the Club of 360, Bilderberg, you can name them, CFR, da-da-da-da-da. It is actively part of pursuing the agendas of not only financial, geopolitical, social, and every other scam, crisis, industrial complex that they will be weaponizing as attack vectors against the great defragmented, unorganized mass populace that think that the news media and governments are working for them.
Excellent. I mean, it's all accumulating to that time. If you're a person that has, I don't know, you're just a person that has 10,000 in savings and they're holding it in a bank. I know that is criminal at this point. What would you personally do? It's not financial advice. What would you personally do, and tell these people maybe what to do to spread risk? I know it's not a big amount of money, but we're just talking about, I guess, average people at the moment, because a lot of them will be the white.
The less you have in the banking system, the better. And if you don't have much money and you only have $10,000, you should have no more than $500 in the bank account, even if your rental check is $1,500. Put 1,000 back in later. It's that close to potentially happening. In our view, you should have silver ounces and gold ounces, and you should be pursuing alpha, warning people about what's coming, finding ways to be part of the solution to when all of this happens, securing contracts with farmers, making an investment so that you can have food supply chain, securing contracts with broilers so that you can have chickens and eggs, not just so that you can feed your own family, but so that you could have a 20% of all output potentially on a farmer that needs capital to make his farm more secure against rogue elements that will come raging for food if the SHT hits the fan. That you should be doing those things so that you can then be a solution and provide an on-sell in farmers markets, organically grown fresh eggs and chicken breasts, etc., etc. You should be focused on getting rural. You should be getting out of urban zones. You should be putting pressure on politicians every chance you get, socially and in any other ways. But don't be shot rioting in a street. Don't stand in front of a tank when state uses absolute force. Get rural. They are going to want to push you into urban centers where they're going to destroy commercial buildings or repurpose them into residential existence pod schemes
Smart
where you're going to
houses,
live.
smart homes, like
Coffin houses.
and little
Coffin
pods. Yeah,
homes, one room coffin homes in your 5G supposed nirvana with your metaverse goggles. You need to resist everything around that. You need to get into nature. And you need to start now. And you need to start making money. And you need to convert that currency into real money, which is silver and gold. And the more you do that, the better you will be off. And you need to not make any purchases on depreciating assets. The clothes on your back are your clothes. You're going to see this through. Short of complete failure or destruction, don't replace them. Every cent should be going into silver and gold ounces right now. This is your capital preservation during times where money, as it's currently presented to you in its current derivative form, which is currency, banking, and debt, is about to collapse. You need to go up source. You need to get to the assembly code, not the fourth generation language that is overlaid on top of the assembly code. You need to get to source, the binary, and you need to own binary money, gold and silver. Don't get into these many multiple layers of derivative versions of money in the form of fiat and everything else. Pay fiat to people for their work. Convert your fiat into true money and watch it appreciate. In an environment where we are in a recession, gold and silver are both currently going up right now. In an environment where Amazon is trading down, gold and silver are going up. The fangs have been defanged, particularly the ones reliant on the consumer. But eventually Apple, eventually Google, eventually all of them will need to contract, even the ones that look untouchable and are cash cows, because as long as the consumer is wrecked, Word won't be bought, AdWords revenue won't be paid for. Corporations that rely on consumers won't be spending as much money on the marketing budget with Google, etc., etc. So they will fall too. And that is when everything goes down and the contraction is real. And what assets should you hold? Gold, silver, and potentially some Bitcoin, maybe Ethereum as well.
yeah. I think that's definitely the case. I mean, what? Just talking about the long-term view, because I wanted to come back onto crypto. In terms of crypto, what is your long-term forecast of that? It's quite an interesting topic because it's some people would say that it's liberating asset, but a lot of people are starting to see that it's kind of a CBDC, maybe a slightly better version of a CBDC, something like Bitcoin, because it's still transparent, it's still online, it's not physical, but it's not fully printable, where you can just print it into hyperinflation. So, what are your thoughts on the long term of crypto, which is obviously hard to say, but what is your view?
So you have to participate in the matrix to sometimes build wealth, but have no illusions. Crypto and cryptography is part of the control structure matrix. To me, the narrative of Satoshi Nakamoto, on balance of probabilities, is an utter fairy tale of dark state skunk work project. So crypto was designed as an on-ramp for a future CBDC. Bitcoin wasn't later captured, it was born captured. It was designed by, in my opinion. Many people will disagree with that. The fact that it is restricted in volume is short-term a benefit for trading and building some wealth, but I will continue to convert large parts into silver and gold. Bitcoin, by its restricted number, does have that. Ethereum has an inflation element to it. They have an absolute plan for Ethereum. They have an absolute plan for XRP, in my opinion. Lumen, Algorand, Quant, and many others. So these are status tools that are part and parcel of bringing in the CBDCs. You can see these association. Ripple, an XRP token, has actively courted the central banks themselves. I think this legal case is a suppression tool to keep the price down. They missed out on the last bull market, and it will have a super pump once it's the under rails fall.
And it's
In
interesting.
future,
It's interesting because it could even be a distraction for the newer generation to avoid gold and silver, because it's not being spoken about by younger generations like my age group, even, and definitely not younger. um, it's not, it goes under the radar, gold and silver as an asset, and everyone looks to the crypto as the saving asset, that will get you saved from the banking collapses and actually, make, obviously build wealth. You can, but it seems like that is the liberating asset and kind of disturbs your thought process, and you don't even look at gold and silver, which was an old asset which no one looks at. It just gathers dust and all these things. So people kind of just it goes under the radar as an investment vehicle.
the Bolshevik inversion perversion always directs its attack vector at the minds it can manipulate best, which will also be the youth market, which is why you're having transgenders, many of them with records for pedophilia, doing lap dances for children in nursery schools, because they want to normalize, hyper normalize even certain things in minds while they're young and malleable. The fact that, oh, that's my dad and he's dumb and he's old school. I'm this new, much more cool technology. It goes faster, it's quicker, it's also limited in supply. It's limited in supply by decree. It's just written that way. Someone could even change the constitution. Someone can hack it and proliferate it. What happens to all the people that got the duplicated versions? Are you going to tell them they never got paid? Or are you going to onboard them and then increase the number? All sorts of failings of a digital scarcity exist versus an actual physical scarcity. So there are quite a few weak points in the crypto argument that are not seen by belief systems. And that's why they encourage let's go and belief systems. That's why they encourage some crypto actors to antagonize Peter Schiff. And that's why I suspect Peter Schiff is actively antagonizing the crypto community. So it's to create an us versus them, and you choose your team, Liverpool or Man United, Springboks or All Blacks. Yeah. And if you're American, it'll be, Redskins, or we're not allowed to say that anymore. It'll be Patriots versus Green Bay Packers or whatever. They're very good at having you choose a team and dividing and conquering. What you should actually embrace is a stable of horses rather than what you think will be the fastest horse, because the fastest horse goes lame easy. The sturdy horse that plows fields all day long, the coal blood, will work all day long when the racehorse is not working. So this is the mentality to have. So you should have both, and you should not be antagonistic to both. But mark my words, if you have grid down, electricity down, power down, no digital thing will happen. And when key events happen, such as 9/11's, mobile network was down. 7/7 in UK, mobile network was taken down. You have power downs. We've already had a winter where there was a possibility where they tested, a trial balloon was floated about switching off power, and people got warned and threatened. South Africa knows firsthand about that. And now smart appliances will even be able to be remotely switched off by your power supplier. These are people. That's why there's a war on gas stoves, because they don't want the unchipped items that are not part of the grid. They are wanting to reduce you to a piece, a small component that is plugged into a mega centralized matrix grid
which is
at
connected to your
every
social
level.
credit score, which is connected to the CBDC. So you can have programmable money. If you exit your 1 kilo, your what was it, 15-minute city, and you try to pay for something over the counter, it will basically reject your payment automatically because that's been programmed into the money. So this is the control system that is coming. I don't think we can stop it, but we can at least move away from it and actually hold stuff that has value, build wealth, and exit that system and that society. Really, if it goes that way, it will be interesting to see how they deploy the CBDC because it's quite obvious to many people how controlling it is. So it will be interesting to see how they manage to pull that off. They might incentivize it with some kind of like airdrop. Here's
It's
like
quite simple how they pull it off. It's how they've pulled everything off. Problem, reaction, solution. They're going to create a mega crisis, which you may already be witnessing the beginning of the slippery slope that will accelerate. They will hold your head underwater and waterboard you till you're almost out of air, and then pull you up for a short breath, and then stick your head back down again for an extended period, like the lockdowns, so that you are gasping for breath in every level. You have reduced access to food, social unrest, weaponized BLM attacking you if you're white, weaponized women or transgender groups attacking women because you're not accepting their genders. You're going to have weaponized every form of cultural attack vector on you, at the same time as not having supermarkets, things being burnt down, insufficient police, utter mayhem, until you accept drone police as being good because it restores order, until you accept robo dog with the gun on it shooting the bad people because it reestablishes order, and then that becomes your new society, and you're grateful to have those intrusions, mechanical, AI and robotics coming in. And that's how they're going to do it. They're going to first make the world so unlivable that the things they want to do, that will be police and surveillance over you, drones buzzing, will now make you feel safe and secure instead of having your privacy intruded on. And same with your currency. And this is their big, larger game. The problem is going to be huge. You are not ready for it. None of us truly are. But you need to start preparing, because any preparation is better than none. And taking action is true mental health. And being around a community of other people that understand all of this, where you can speak freely and don't have to do censor muzzled speak like the wokery fest that they are inflicting upon you, is going to prove your sanity in the times of these environments, whether it's a signal group, whether it's a Telegram group, and then physical group of people that are like-minded and are ready to protect their homes. And you need to have supply. This is going to get properly real. The Bolshevik revolution is coming for the West. Their goal is to destroy and cull. That is what they will do. They will allow social unrest to run on an open-ended order until it is destroying the middle classes. Having bad, evil people kill hard-working, tax-paying people will actually be part of their agenda for quite a sustained period. And then those that are left will accept all the things right now you find repugnant. That is what they intend to do. It is coming. It is not even remotely, in my mind, a variable. It is almost fixed as far as one can talk about the future on balance of probabilities.
yeah, it's if,
This is
it's
not
not if,
going to
it's
be
when.
pleasant.
It's not if, it's when. Key takeaways then: go physical. Whatever you do,
Go
go
rural,
physical,
go
go rural.
physical, get local, get organized. Know your local cop, because he might be the enforcement officer. Be suspicious of outsider people, asylum seekers that are now becoming riot police. They will be more dispassionate about flogging, shooting upon you, and everything. And weapons of state will fire upon their own citizenry, is an absolute prediction. And start getting used to robotics being your new police. RoboCop is coming, and you'll be glad to have it. Yes, as repugnant as it sounds, because they will allow so much to happen against you that many people will be lost along the way. They are right-sizing labor They see themselves as the capitalist and the creators of capital because they created the money system. As I've said every time, and I will always repeat, they will never let you have your own money. They won't let you have your own money. Bitcoin was not designed to save you. It's their on-ramp for a CBDC. They will never let you have your own money. It would be to give up their power. So they see themselves as the capitalist, and all of you are labor at varying degrees. As we now have AI and robotics and the ability to do things physically more efficiently without any emotions or needing time off for a crap break or a tea break, they do not need the human resources that we currently have. That is the plight behind the climate agenda and everything. And everybody immediately goes, yes, after the climate and the carbon and all of that. Too many people. They've made that the association. Every time climate is spoken about, carbon is spoken about, green is spoken about. That doesn't mean humans don't do negative things environmentally, but actually we could probably sustain 20 billion people living efficiently on this planet if we all were cooperating and the money was spent doing efficient things. And we could do that without having any poor people. But the money goes to the military industrial complex, the crisis industrial complex, the pharmaceutical industrial complex, which makes you sicker while treating symptoms and has no real care for your health. This is a pervert, invert system that is got a certain agenda that it is pursuing, and it is relentless, belligerent, and you are going to be storm rolled by it if you are not prepared. And that's what we're all about. I personally, I need to go,
Yeah.
but that is the key message. That is the
How
takeout. You
can
need to get physical. You need to get organized. You need to get local. You need to get semi-rural, at least suburban open spaces, and preferably rural. And you need to start forming contracts and allegiances for food supply and all your basics. You want to be energy independent. You want to be as independent from state as possible. And they will hate you for that, and they will fight you for it. They will want you to have to pay for an electricity connection even if you aren't using it. They will actually put a surcharge on you for not using it, a minimum. They will do all forms of things. I've seen it in South Africa. I'm seeing it everywhere. You'll be hated for being male. You'll be hated for being white. You'll be hated for being hetero. You'll be hated for whatever you are. You'll be hated for the language you speak, the country you were born in. Everything will be weaponized socially against you. Be amongst your kin and build and fortify. This is unhuman, abnormal, major, globalized revolution that has never happened in history before. This is not just a financial event. This is a geopolitical event. You need to get out of the West. You need to think about where you truly want to live that is not in the sinking Titanic, because the harshest downturn in living standards will be in the Commonwealth and the Western language, Western nations, most of which English language. Canada, of course, you can include some French in there. You need to think about Latin America. You need to think about Africa. You need to think about the Far East. But remember that there's high compliance and problems there. There are no easy one fits all, but you need to have multiple options. That's why we do the Reset Sniper. That's why we do foundations for people to hold their wealth. That's why we have multiple locations you can hang out. And this is what we do at themarketsniper.com. Follow the YouTube channel to see how we are helping our community members build wealth, turn it into something they could have some chance of holding on to as we go through one of the most draconian totalitarianism events that is designed to strip you of everything.
Excellent, Francis. Yeah, thank you very much for the warning and for the hope as well, because there are always ways and opportunities through these times. So yeah, we'll have all the links in the description for the Market Sniper and the Crypto Sniper and all that jazz. Remember to share and like and subscribe to the channel. Also get access to our free newsletter, which goes out every month, which is packed with incredible content, which will help you get information that will help you implement into your life, such as move away from centralized systems and step into sovereignty and freedom. Peace and love to you all, and thanks for listening. Thank you very much, Francis.
Great stuff. And remember, taking action is mental health. Do physical exercise, take action, and community, which aren't gaslighting you and trying to force you into wearing masks and comply. The lowest common denominator, be amongst high common denominator community. Take action, community, get local, and look after your physical health.
Make
I'll catch you guys
contacts.
later.
Exactly. Good. Thank you very much, Francis. Speak soon.
All the best. Bye-bye.